Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Svetlana Klichkova, and I am with CMS Wire, Simply Media Group. Why am I here? I've been a part of the Expat Women Group for the last 2 years, I think 2 years and a half. So have really good relationship with Nina. Love this community. Who is the newbie with our group? Okay. Well, welcome. Welcome. Thanks for coming. I hope to see your smiley faces next time as well. So I would like first of all, some logistics. If you don't know where to find us, we are on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So please make sure you tag our accounts and follow us on social media. I would like to review the agenda quickly. So we're going to start with introductions. We have an amazing panel today. We'll have our moderator present everybody. I met this amazing women. We chatted a little bit. So I'm really excited about the discussion. We're going to have panel discussion and Q&A section. And also we'll continue with networking around 8 o'clock. I would like to introduce the moderator of our panel, Mariana Gonzalez. She is diversity recruitment specialist and also a technical recruiter at Yelp. Mariana, why don't you come on up? And if you can introduce the rest of the panelists, and our discussion will be approximately 45 minutes.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Yelp. How many people, this is their first time here at Yelp? Raise your hand. Wow, welcome. Super excited to host another Expat Women event and to have you all here today. And I'm very excited to present the panelists today. We have Yelp's very own Miriam Warren, who's Vice President of Engagement, Diversity, and Belonging here at Yelp. We have Maira Benjamin, who's the Director of Engineering at Pandora. Astha Malik, who is VP of Platform and Product Marketing at Zendesk, and Goddard, who is Director of Pricing Product at PayPal, and last but not least, we have Rashim Mogha, who is Senior Director of Cloud Infrastructure and Customer Enablement at Oracle. So let's give everyone a round of applause. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. So we'll just get started with our first question. We have a list of questions, and then we'll have some time for questions at the end from the audience. Let's see. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what your current job entails.
Sure, that's the benefit of sitting right next to the moderator. Hi, everyone. As I was introduced before, my name is Astha Malik, and I run the platform and product marketing team at Zendesk. And I recently started running the go-to-market enablement and strategy team as well. And I've been there for about 2 years. A few people from my team are here, and I'm super excited to be on the panel.
I should know this stuff. I work Pandora. Anyway. I'm Director of Engineering at Pandora. I have the delight and pleasure of leading the team that is responsible for all of those recommendations and the search team. So whenever you're listening to Pandora and you're doing the lean back experience, you're listening to a song, we figure out what the next song in your listening experience will be. So that team is awesome, and I'm very lucky to be leading them.
Awesome. Let's see if I can match that. Is this working? Yes. Hi, everybody. I'm Rashim Mogha, and I lead the customer enablement and strategy for Oracle Cloud Infrastructure at Oracle. Essentially responsible for the experience that the customers have with our OCI services, how do we train them, how do we certify them, and how then we bring them into the reference pool so that these customers become our evangelists. I myself am an expat woman. I moved to this country about 15 years ago. And I'm loving it so far.
Hi, my name is Goddard. I'm also an expat from France, as maybe you can hear from my accent. I'm working at PayPal as a director of product, and I'm looking over our pricing platform, so about 14 billion of revenue last year. So it better works. And I know part of the question was what your job entails. It entails a lot of aligning the company towards what we need to build, and there are a lot of debates on, pricing is always, in every single company, triggers a lot of debates between sales, marketing, and product, and finance, and so this is a lot of what I'm doing, and I'm responsible for understanding the industry and where we're heading and the opportunities and doing a pricing strategy for the platform.
Hi, my name is Miriam Warren, and I head up engagement, diversity, and belonging here at Yelp, which is a really fun job. Every day I think about sort of how we can communicate better with people who work here, make sure they feel informed, trying to make sure that everybody here feels like they have a home here, like they have a really great chance at success, that a whole wide variety of diverse people can feel like this is a place where they want to build their career. Having been here 11 years myself and having done lots of different jobs here, I know that it's a place that I really love, and it's a really fun job every day to help other people love it as much as I do.
Thank you. So the next question is for Maira, but everyone else feel free to chime in as you would like. So one is, how would you define success, and how have you found, what have the challenges been being successful in a male-dominated area such as tech?
By the way, a tip for everybody, swallow the mic. Just really close. So I define success as being able to wake up every day and look forward to going to the job and being authentic in everything that I do. And notice that I didn't say be the VP or the CEO or the CTO or anything. I think it's really predicated on how you feel more than anything else. And I've been in tech now for over 3 decades, and it's been a very interesting journey, which I'm always happy to talk to people about, strategies of how to deal with being a male-dominated industry. But one thing that I have learned is that respect comes when you know your stuff. If I'm able to talk to engineers and understand what they're saying to me and represent them well, then I can succeed in this male-dominated industry. If I'm not able to represent the work that my team does or anyone else does, then I think that's a problem. So other tips for surviving is, again, be authentic, stay true to yourself, realize that this is a hard journey. There have been times in my career that for speaking up that I've been penalized, but I'm fine with that. Just own your power at every moment of the day, because everyone has power in this room. And I think that we sell ourselves short by thinking that we can't change anything. Change comes when you speak up. So I've been proud to say that I've spoken up many times in my career, and things have changed. And I continue to speak up, and until I get tired and do something else that's more interesting.
I think success is defined by a moment in time. If I go back to whenever I started my career, which was almost like 19 or 20 years ago, I was dating myself now. But I always thought if I get to that level, that'll be my success point. And then I think that never stops. So to me, my success definition was always trying to do better, always trying to reach higher, always trying to learn something new. And I think everyone has their own definition. So, success is defined by what you want and what makes you happy and what keeps you going. But I think working in a male-dominated industry, I think my team, the few of us who are here today, will tell you that I'm very, very vocal about, the challenges that we have. I think, we continue to talk about the glass ceiling, and I think the panels had sort of like the title in it. And it's interesting because to me, there isn't sort of like, you're going to hit a glass ceiling when you reach a certain level. There's a glass ceiling at every level for you, right? I mean, we do work in an industry that's heavily dominated by males. That's a reality. That's the truth. Even today, it's been very public out there. There are protests in San Francisco against a really big company. So these things are still, sadly, very, very prevalent. So, you will hit a glass ceiling at every point. I think I will be lying if I said that I always felt super vocal or super comfortable and confident in speaking out my truth. I think it took some time to build my credibility, whether that was with my peers or in the industry, to be able to come to a point where, you just don't give as much. And, then you get the confidence to speak up. And I think I try to tell that to my team as well as we hit some roadblocks, continue to hit roadblocks. Zendesk is very progressive in many ways, but just like any other place, we have our own set of challenges too. So it's good to admit that and be authentic and frankly, be vulnerable in front of your team. Like, I don't shy away from that. I show my vulnerability. I show the challenges I hit. I show where I, still continue to face unconscious bias and other things. So that's important. I think in the early days of my career, when I looked at women who had succeeded, and the definition of success at that point was like, oh, she's reached a certain level, so she's very successful. I always thought, you had to be a certain way to be successful, and obviously she didn't have any challenges or she was operating in a very different way. The reality is, like, people used to hide their challenges, and that's not what I want to do for my team. So I'm pretty transparent about how I feel, what's going on, and I think, in a way, it's my obligation to them so that they're prepared for their set of challenges.
And then, everybody, you guys define success very, very nicely and articulated it. And I would agree with you, Astha, that success means different things to different people. And also, it depends on where you are in your life, right? What stage you are. So sometimes success can mean having work-life balance, although there's nothing like that exists in the real world. Success can mean being able to spend some time with your kids rather than traveling all the time. At other times, it might mean excelling and putting your projects forward in your organization and making sure that you drive them through. Always speak up, but pick your battles wisely, right? And that's important. You should know what is a negotiable for you and what is a non-negotiable for you. And that's very important. And at any given point in time, I have always felt that when my inner self is congruent with the outer self that's there, it's always, it's a feeling of success for me, right? So for example, if I believe that I need to put my team first or my customers first, and the company that I work for is in congruence with that, or the team that I work for is in congruence with that, it always helps. So, and then know your superpower. Always, always know what sets you apart from others. Everybody has a superpower. And it's important to know, and it's important to reflect that. And when you get an opportunity, when you have a seat at the table, make sure that you speak up. When you get opportunity, do not let go of that opportunity. If you have good ideas, if you have something to say in the conversation, make sure you contribute into the conversation. And that's one thing that I see that we women do not do. Oftentimes, even with the teams that I have led, I've had more male team members than female team members. And I noticed that the male team members would say something and contribute to it and just rush on to speak to their ideas. And the women tend to just agree with their ideas when they might have bright ideas and they would come back later on. So if you are leaders, make sure that you give an opportunity to the women leaders on your team or women team members to share their ideas in public.
For me, success in my professional life was the freedom of discovering new areas, new fields, learning continuously, growing, have the not feeling stuck anywhere, but continue the exploration where I felt like exploring at the moment, and also having an impact on things that I thought were important, things that matter to me. And those two things then, for me, define success. I would say yes, in a male-dominated world, it's hard. So I think one of the core skills that you need to have or develop is resilience, because you're not going to go, where you want necessarily overnight. It's going to be long. There are going to be battles. There are going to be maybe some things that you'll think like are unfair, but with resilience, you'll get there. You'll find a way, and as long as you can learn, grow, have an impact on things that really matter to you, I think you will have some level of satisfaction.
Oh, thank you. I love that. Knowing what your superpower is, very powerful. So the next question is somewhat related. It's all about the power of allyship. And so given that we are in a male-dominated industry, how do you leverage that? And how do you work with men and allies to kind of help your career advancement, help promote women in the workplace?
So I think we all seek mentors all the time. I would like you to change your perspective and start seeking sponsors. We all need sponsors. We need people who can be our cheerleaders in the room when we are not present. We need people who can vouch for us, who can promote us when we are not there. Gone are the days when it was just a decision of your hiring manager to promote you to the next level. Nowadays, everybody, multiple stakeholders have a say in anybody's promotion. And when I say promotion, I don't mean the next level. I also mean at the same level, getting new projects, getting more visibility. And I realized this early on in my career, that I had a lot of mentors, but when the time came and when people were really, I needed somebody to stand up in that room where I wasn't there to defend myself. I had very few people who were watching for me. So look for people in your network, specifically if you want to grow in the same company. Look for stakeholders whom you work very closely. Look for at least 2 levels above you, and understand the power hierarchy in an organization. So there is a people tool hierarchy that we all know, right? But there's also a power hierarchy that exists in each organization, and look at them, identify your sponsors, and then nurture that relationship. With sponsors, remember that they're putting their credibility online when they vouch for you. So it's a win-win kind of a relationship with them, and I'm happy to talk to you offline about that. But it has really helped me. It has helped the people that I have mentored to find sponsors and to nurture that relationship to kind of get to the next level.
And I'm curious to hear from Nolan or Miriam. You've both been at PayPal and Yelp for over 10 years. So can you tell us a little bit about either an experience of someone who sponsored you, or maybe it was you who did the sponsoring for someone else?
I do both. So yeah, my current vice president has been a sponsor, and I was reporting into him when he was only a director, and he's evolved and has been offering me new opportunities every so often. And sometimes I was coming to him and say, hey, I'm ready to do something else, and he would find something for me, or sometimes say, hey, I need you there, can you do that? So that's been one of my sponsors. I had also people that I worked with who really vouch for me, because it's not just a one-person decision when you're being promoted or assigned to opportunities. I've met those people through work and demonstrating I was doing a great work, helping them, helping their teams, because we were in different organizations. So it's not just your org you need to enable and have an impact for, but everyone in the organization. And also sometimes you have other opportunities that are outside of your main core assignments. And it can be also something that will give you visibility and an opportunity to make an impact. So for example, I was the president of the women's group at PayPal, so about 2,000 members for a few years. And of course, in that position, you're interacting directly with people who report to the CEO, right? So the people overlooking HR and strategy and, a lot of other folks. And some of them just also very interested because they happen to have 4 daughters, or you get to know people who are close to power, and so it's an opportunity to observe, to learn from observation, to see what kind of problems they're thinking about and how they want to have an impact, how you can help have an impact, or how you can influence their thinking. So I would say seek opportunities that will have an impact in the company and will give you the visibility as well. And it's an opportunity also to get some sponsors because they see you in action and what you're enabling. I am also, now that I'm so aware of the role of sponsor, I'm absolutely playing the role of sponsor when I see talent somewhere and I want to grow it. And especially, of course, not only women, but especially women, because or any minority that I see. I think we have a duty to help people who are generally, for whom it's generally harder than mainstream, so to succeed. So yeah, I do that offering, when it's people in my team directly offering training, so make sure that you have budget, giving stretch assignments, promoting people, having all the conversation of setting them up for success. So for example, when I saw talent, for example, I was saying, hey, to my peers or even above, can you mentor this person? Or can you, and they had a lot of support from different parts of the organization, either at my peer level or even above, because they say, hey, this is talent, we need to grow this person, please do that. And they would. So I think it's really, you need to think strategically about what you can do for others, how you can grow, how you can multiply talent in the company.
I came to work at Yelp when there were less than 50 people who worked here. And so at that time, everyone knew one another. And now we have more than 6,000 people across the country and also in Canada and overseas. And it becomes very difficult for people to know everyone who's working here and to find people to connect with. And so I see my job as connecting people with other people inside of the organization so they can grow their own careers. And it's something that I really enjoy doing, and I think maybe comes from my the early part of my career when I was a recruiter and wanting to always connect people and help people sort of find their dream job and that sort of thing. These days, my team works on something that I am personally very passionate about, which are our mother's rooms and our welcome back program for parents at Yelp. And so we have these amazing rooms here where mothers who are breastfeeding can pump, and we give them all the parts, and we have as to hospital grade pumps, which is actually a really amazing thing and really can allow women to breastfeed for a lot longer, because for anyone who's ever pumped before, it really sucks and it takes a long time. But so anything you can do as a company to make that easier for women, it's a big thing, and I think it's a total retention tool. And so I feel like these days I'm an ally, especially to parents and to moms who are returning to work and who are finding themselves with a brand new identity that they didn't have before. And I feel really lucky. I report to our chief operating officer, who has 2 kids himself and has been really endorsing of me when I went out for maternity leave and coming back as a mom. And I think, when you develop this new identity as a parent, it can be very shocking and isolating, and you sort of wonder, like, who am I now? Because I am responsible for this other person, and I have a new title, like mom or dad or parent. And I've been really lucky to feel very embraced by the company, and also to get to work on things like welcoming people back with a picture of their kids on their desk the first day they get back from parental leave, which it can be really hard to leave your kid at home for the first time. And so to be able to tell people, hey, we really missed you while you were on parental leave, and also we're really glad that you're back, and you might be missing your cute kid, here's a picture of them so you won't miss them too much.
Cool. So this next question is somewhat related to that. It's how do you keep yourself emotionally, spiritually, just well and healthy? And there's been a lot of talk about work-life balance, and now it's more towards work-life integration, which seems more realistic. So what are some examples and practices that you can share with everyone?
So I rushed for the mic for this one because I have been talking about mindful leadership for a long time now, and in the last 2 years I have started actually running programs at Oracle for the leaders around mindful leadership. And there are days when, as Astha mentioned, there's glass ceiling at every level. There are days that can get really frustrating, both for you as well as your team, especially when you show your real self to the team, and kind of your entire team feels like that. So positive affirmations help a lot for me. And actually, I created a leadership affirmation for this entire group over here on Alexa, and I would like to play it if that's okay with everybody. And you guys don't need anything except for an Alexa app on your iPhone to do that. And let's see, it's technology. Let's see if it works, right? Yeah. So, Alexa, open leadership affirmations.
Here's your leadership and success affirmation for today. You can either say it with me or just listen to it. I am heard and respected at work, and I am valued.
So that's for you. If any of you wants to access it, all you need to do is download Alexa app on your phone. You need an Amazon account, and that's it. And it's a free app that's available for everybody. And all you need to do is there are about 150 affirmations in there. All you need to say is, Alexa, open leadership affirmations, and you'll have a new affirmation every day for you.
That is so cool. I actually I work at Pandora, so music is my drug. I drive a quarterly music jam at the company, which allows people at the employees to participate, and it's totally awesome. Magic happens because no one rehearses, and they just get together. We put a spreadsheet together, and people will they'll do whatever they want to do with people that sign up. If they want to do drums or guitar or bass or violin or whatever, and that has been a great way to just get people to affirm that they have a connection to music. And then along those lines, once a year we have a huge talent show, and I have a funk band, and I funk out, and it's awesome because we've been voted in every year, and we bring the house down. We play the old funk, we bring it down, and we bring it. The mother is on fire. I mean, seriously. And the other thing I do, surprisingly enough, which is very non-tech, is I knit. And in fact, I have my knitting project with me, if anyone's curious to know what I'm knitting. I started a knitting group at work, which men have joined as well. We teach people how to knit, and every week we meet, and we actually, for the holidays, we knit hats for babies and kids that need them. And it's been a great way for me to connect with my creative self, which I think people have to connect to have a balance with the other stuff that we do. So music is my drug, and I exploit it every moment of every time I can get a chance to do that.
Right. I think one of the things that I believe is a misnomer is this work-life harmony, integration, balance, all these new words that keep coming about. I think, for me, what has been true is that accepting that there will be times when my work will take over, and there will be times when my family will really need me, and I'll need to kind of like just go 100% in both situations, right? And just realizing that has helped me sort of like not trying to be all things all the time, because that can drive you nuts. And I have a 10-year-old, so it's hard when you're a mom and you're thinking, well, I'm not being a good mom all the time, or I'm not being a good boss all the time, or I'm not being a good wife all the time. That can really mess with you. So I think just coming to the realization that, all right, there's a critical launch coming up, my work, my team needs me, and I'm going to be all in for them, setting the expectation at home, that definitely works. And I think the other thing that I've also, and this is just my learnings over the years, stepping on some landmines, learning through my experiences, etc. But I started sort of at one point when I went all in my career, and I wanted to really be aggressive about it and embark on this high growth path. I found myself in situations where I was making commitments at home and I wasn't keeping them, and then I realized, like, I don't do that at work, though. If I'm telling my boss I'm going to be there at 9 in a meeting, and there are like 5 other people who are attending the meeting, I'm there. So if I'm telling my son and my husband that I'm going to be home for dinner, and I don't do that, and these are the 2 most important people in my life, like, that doesn't make any sense. And I think just realizing that sometimes, reminding yourself of that, is a good idea. And it's a hard thing to do, but make your commitment and keep it. And that is not just for work, that's for home too. And I think for me, the balance and the way that you bring in some balance in sort of like not going crazy with work has been just working out. And I feel just better if I'm working out just even a little bit. I've lowered my expectations on how much time can I dedicate to working out every day, and that's totally fine. Like, even if I do it like just 15 minutes every morning, I start off the day thinking I did something for myself, and then the rest is all better from there.
So for a lot of women in the room, they're breaking into tech for the first time. Maybe they've been out for a while. What's some advice, if you can go back to your early days in tech in your careers, what's some advice that you would give to someone who is looking to get back into tech or to get in for the first time?
I say this every time I'm in front of a lot of people, but just be kind to yourself. Realize that, as I said earlier, this is a hard journey. I mean, it's not getting any easier. It's just the same hardness that I felt when I first started this career, and to, even up to now. It's been a constant challenge, and we are our worst critics. We think that, we're not beautiful enough, we're not wearing the right clothes, we're funky looking, we're, whatever it is that the hang up of the day is. Just be kind to yourself and realize that people want to help you. Ask for help. That is a compliment to someone when you come up to them and say, hey, could you possibly help me with something? You are opening the door to that person to actually do something for you. And I think so many people will do that if you're genuine about it. So ask for help and just be kind to yourself. And don't think that you're going to be the CEO tomorrow. That's a different journey, but be realistic about what you can do, and take care of yourself. Because if you work insane hours, you are going to pay one way or another with your body or your mind or your soul. So realize that tomorrow is another day, another chance to attack the problem, another chance to prove yourself, and another chance for someone to help you along the way.
And when people do help you, ask 2 questions when you end every meeting. So there'll be lots of people who will open their doors to you, who will take you for a coffee, or who will let you take them for a tea. And at the end of those conversations, ask these 2 questions. The first is, what can I do to help you? And mean it. So they've already helped you, maybe with sitting with you or providing you with some help. Ask them how you can help them. And then the second question would be, who else should I meet? Because when you've talked to them and you've explained what you're looking for and who you're trying to meet, they should probably also know some other folks for you to meet. And if you ask that question, you can also let them know, hey, you don't have to tell me today. I'll follow up in an email to jog your memory. Some of the best contacts that I've received have been from offering the help and then also asking who else that person might know to introduce me to.
I would say be prepared to learn all the time, especially nowadays and especially in tech. I mean, technology is changing all the time. So have an appetite, cultivate this appetite to learn. And of course, we cannot learn everything. So it's, you need to also choose what you want to learn and what's relevant to learn. But it's going to be critical. People who cannot learn quick enough or cannot adapt quick enough will have fewer opportunities than one who can. Resilience, I've already talked about it. It's a muscle to build because not everything is going to come to you right away. And I would say try also to look at not what just you see, but imagine you are in the shoes of other people in different parts of the org and look at problem end to end. Because maybe you're responsible for a part of it, but usually problems are complex. And to really solve and make a huge impact for the company, you need to think about all the elements that needs to be solved. And if you can do that, it will work well for you because people will see that you're thinking holistically and addressing everyone's needs as you solve the issue. And not only that, but once you've identified the impact that you can have solving a problem that's complex and end-to-end, make your impact visible. And that can be, of course, it can happen naturally, but sometimes you need a little bit of help to make it visible, especially as women. We're not really used to toot our own horn, but you can also find allies, right? People will speak for you, going back to sponsors, it can be friends, can be colleagues, and say, hey, so-and-so did a fantastic job doing that. You don't need to be the one always saying, hey, look at what I've done, but make it so that it happens. That's what I would say.
And, the beauty of today's era is that with the advancement, the technology, the innovation that's happening in the technology field, you have an ability to blend your creative side with the technology, right? So, for example, for you, your passion for music, you get an opportunity to kind of blend it with the job role that you're doing. So when you think about moving into tech, do not get stuck onto just being on the development side. That was something that I thought was something, if I had to do differently in my career, that is something that I would do. So I started off my career as a developer, and I always thought being in the tech industry meant developing all the time. Then I found that training and enablement actually was something that I was gravitating towards. So I moved into that area and now into product management. So give yourself that flexibility and explore different dimensions, both of your personality as well as the organizations that you work in. And find a niche that works for you, that kind of feeds into your creative self as well, because the journey is long and hard. And unless you find a way to feed your soul, it'll become really hard.
So what's a risk that you've taken in your career that has really paid off, or maybe it didn't pay off, but you learned a lesson from?
I've taken a few. But I think for me, by the way, if you look at the typical Silicon Valley profile of somebody who's managing any part of product, whether that's product marketing or product management, etc., I'm quite different. I don't look like your typical person like many of you. I have an accent like many of you. I do not have a product degree. I cannot code. So there's just a lot of things that I cannot do. But all I can do is there's, you can't really teach two things to people. One is ambition and the other is work ethic. And I think I had both. And I was also very determined, and we were talking about it before, about sort of like trying out new things and sort of like raising my hands, which also meant getting a little uncomfortable at times and, getting out of like a very good place and trying something new. Not every organization gives you that opportunity. You got to find that place for yourself. And, there are a lot of organizations in the Valley that want to retain really good people. So I had the really good fortune of working at Citrix in my early days. And, we were growing as a company at the time. And every 2 years, I'd raise my hand and try something new. Some ventures worked out, some ventures didn't. But I think when you try something new, you got to remember that, the best thing that'll happen to you is like everything will work out as planned. You'll get exactly what you thought you'd get. You'll, learn something new. You hopefully will get successful in the new venture, so all's good. And the worst thing that can happen is that you'll learn something new. So it's really not that bad. And I think it ultimately sort of like, helps you in your career at some point in time. And, frankly, where I landed with this position as well, it's always been sort of like, about the journey and like, the experiences that you've gathered. And I think the more diverse they are, the better for you.
I think every time I take a new job, it's a risk. I can either fall flat on my face or succeed, or as you say, I'm always learning something new. But my first risk was deciding to get a master's in liberal studies while I was working in tech. And people looked at me with side eye and said, "What the heck are you doing? You should be doing a degree in computer science or something." And I had a bachelor's in statistics, by the way, so I am not a fully hatched computer programmer. I don't have that degree. So every job that I've taken has been a learning experience. I know a lot of languages, all kinds of stuff. It's been great. But that master's in liberal studies, that one threw everyone for a curve. And I thought, I don't know what I'm doing, but I want to pursue this part of my being of I'm interested in all these subjects. I designed my master's degree. And after I did that, I can't tell you the numerous numbers of times where I've had to communicate to people where that degree has benefited me. Because that degree forced me to communicate like nobody's business about subjects I didn't understand and research it and prove a case and present it so that I can convince people of what I was talking about. And to this day, everything that I've learned from that master's program has played into all aspects of my job. And this is why I'm a big supporter of people doing things that are outside of the curve and exploring liberal studies and other things that aren't related to computer science, because I bring that into the job. And communication is everything with my job, especially with engineers and managers. So that was my first risk. The other risks have been joining startups. They all flopped. Yeah, it wasn't me. I didn't take it personally. But another risk is, being at a stockholders meeting early on when South Africa was going through its apartheid regime, and I found out that the company had invested in some stocks or corporations that were involved in South Africa. I was in the back of the room, I raised my hand and I said, "I move that we divest from these stocks." And everybody looked at me, and I was sent to the principal's office. So yeah, there's things that I've learned, but I definitely, that master's degree was that risky move that I'm still happy about.
I think I take risks every day, and we all do, I think, with the stuff that we do, from, being an author, being a speaker, creating this Alexa app. These are minor things that I do. But I think the biggest risk that I ever took was saying yes to a managerial position to manage a team at 19 years of age. in a male-dominated society where people, men who were 40 years old reporting into me. And that was by far the hardest job that I ever had, because in spite of me having the skill set that was required, I not only had to prove to the outside people, stakeholders, that I was capable of it, I had to constantly prove to my team that I was capable of it. And I had to make some very tough choices in terms of how to handle some of those team members. I still, I look back at those days and I still think that I should have done some things differently, but I always give a pat to myself on my back for saying yes to that job and the role. So if opportunities come to you and if you're given the opportunities, grab it with both your hands and then figure out how you're going to be successful.
I agree with that. Just say yes, and then you'll figure out. So little risk again. For example, I was just starting this new role in pricing. I've been in my current role like for the past 3 years. So it's not like I have a gazillion of years of experience, but maybe a year into that role, I've been asked by the Professional Pricing Society to be a keynote speaker in a conference in front of 500 people. A keynote speaker, not just a breakout session. I'm like, okay, well, I cannot say no. I'm just like advocating for women leadership. I have to say yes, but I didn't feel really comfortable. And I was presenting with other keynote speakers who are like gurus in the pricing industry, have written books and all of that. But I just did it, and I survived. It's like, you're not gonna die, so worst case, you just and nobody will remind you anyway if you're that bad, and you move on, right? So, but after that, you have another opportunity, and another conference wants to hear you, and then you have another, a lot of things unfold from this first opportunity. So if you do that in a few places in your life, soon you'll have a lot of opportunity, and after a little while, like, keynote speaker again, I've done that, exactly. So taking risks, and sometimes it's like, okay, it's not that big of a risk. Our lives are not at risk, and it's just sometimes it's fun. Also, it's an adventure, a little bit of anxiety maybe, but it's a thrill also of something new that you've never done. So if you can turn it more like, okay, it's an adventure and let's explore, it makes it. It's a learning opportunity for sure. So yeah, I would say. But yeah, big risks. I don't know. I always took the adventure part, so I came to the US. But even that didn't feel like a big risk. Before I had been to Lebanon and under the bombs, so I'm like, San Francisco should be pretty easy. So, yeah, I think it's after when you look back at your life that sometimes, oh, that was really risky. I wouldn't do it again today. If I was like, sometime with the looking back, you can say that. But I would say, yeah. It's good to take risk, and calculated risk. Of course, you don't want to do something completely inconsiderate, but if you think of it and you feel and it's you can feel it's the right thing to do, and then just go for it.
Well, we have about 10 minutes left, and I want to make sure that you all in the audience have an opportunity to ask questions. So we'll go ahead and open it up. If you want to just raise your hand, I can run around with the mic.
How would you define executive presence, or what does it mean to you?
That's a great question. I'm sure we all have different thoughts on this. I think executive presence is a person in the room who not only speaks clearly and allows other people to understand what they're saying. So someone who can illuminate an idea so that everyone in the room, whether they're very close to it or far away from it, can understand. But a big piece of executive presence, at least in the positive way that I imagine it, is someone who can also allow other people to shine in that room too. I think the people that I think about who have the most executive presence have also allowed other people to have opportunities to show themselves in a way that might not have happened without that person sort of shining the light.
I would just add also that, because I've been in a training on that, so I'm going to share what I've learned But a lot of things that we interpret as executive presence is like very decomposing, very elementary things, like look at people in the eye, speak slowly, short sentences, kind of low tone, a little smile, like warmth, right? You know, taking space with your body, like look confident. If you're standing in your 2 feet, you know, the head need to be like level-headed. For example, I move my head way too much, so I lose my executive presence doing that. A lot of things are really things that are simple, but you know, you need to train. For example, I should train more not to do that with my head. I should be more like relaxed and, you know. And so to train, you need to maybe put a book on your head, you know, and see watch that it doesn't fall. You know, things like that, right? But if you train over time, you're going to be much better at all those things, and then you can put them all together, and voila, you have an executive presence.
I have a slightly different take on that. I actually have a problem with that word because I think it's used against women all the time. I think, like, you know, when women are trying to climb into different roles, into leadership positions, the first thing, or one amongst the many things they continue to hear is like, well, you don't really have the executive presence. And it baffled me, sort of like, you know, what does that really mean? What do you mean by executive presence? And it's so inconsistent because the things or the feedback I was getting was not the feedback that my male counterparts were getting. They could be brash, they could swear, they could do a bunch of things, and here I was, I'm trying to be like, okay, trying to conform to whatever perceptions or whatever standards that are defined for women. Well, you gotta be polite, you gotta like present yourself like this, you gotta dress like that. And I just feel like, you know, all these things are formed because of the number of years of our history in terms of like men leading and, you know, taking charge and defining the standards. So I take issue with anyone who says executive presence. I think I do agree with what you said before around, like, you know, making sure that, you know, everybody in the room gets a chance, that you're coming across prepared, you're coming across as confident. Those things, to me, are just general work practices. And, you know, just using this term for women, I think it's got to go.
I think it's all about exuding confidence, knowing that as a leader, you will not have answer to every question that somebody poses you. However, as a leader, you have the confidence to be able to find the right resources who can support you and provide you those answers. And that's all that it is all about for me. It's not about how you dress up. You should look the part, definitely look the part. But beyond that, how you dress up, how you interact with others, have empathy, and that's all there is to it.
Any other questions from the audience?
I'm from a family of 6. I don't know if I need a microphone, but
I thought the same until I got this mic.
I'm curious if how you guys answer this question. So I've been in the business for 20 years. I'm dating myself as well. Been very fortunate, but also fought for probably the past 10 years to have a seat at the table. And it was always interesting to me because I was always wanting to be effective, and that's what really held my position there. But I always had this question of like, how are you dealing with being the only female at the table? So I'm curious if you've had that question, and I'm just interested on your take on it. Great question.
It's not easy. In a lot of meetings, I'm the only woman and sometimes the only white person as well. And maybe other criteria again. I mean, so I would say try to bring more women with you because then it's more fun. So, you know, if there is an open position, I would really try to interview, of course, diverse candidates and bringing them on board. I typically try to give really good feedback to my manager who was hiring like women versus men and try to influence that, right? Try to choose to have company so that you're not alone. And then also I would say, even though maybe in your meetings you're the only woman, maybe in your company you're not the only woman, or even if you're the only woman in your company, maybe, you know, you can find other women outside of your company and have a network, a supportive network of people who experience the same pain as you, and you can at least, you know, exchange and you don't feel alone anymore. I mean, for everyone who have heard maybe of the Grace Hopper conference, since Women in Tech, like it's 20,000 women in one big room, women in tech, right? And it feels so good. You say, oh, I'm not the only one, right? There are people like me, and you can build those connections. At least will help you go through the hardship, I would say.
And then also form a network of your peers and women who are at the same level or at a higher level within your organization. I can feel your pain because I am 90% of the times in all the meetings that we have, I'm the only woman on the table. And it gets stressful sometimes. It's like, guys, do you understand, or where are you coming from? And sometimes, the conversations get really harsh, or there are inside jokes that are flowing that you really don't understand or can't tap into. And there is pre-meetings and post-meetings happen that you're not part of. So how do you deal with that? I actually very consciously made an effort when I joined Oracle to interact with other senior directors and VPs outside of my organization who understood how the organization works. Because sometimes you can talk to people in your network, but they would really not understand how your company works, right? Or they'll not have context to it. So building that kind of intellectual support system really helps.
All right, I have the solution. I sit at the head of the table at every meeting that I have ever been in. And what that does, in most cultures, it establishes you as the leader, no matter what happens in the room. I even sit in the couch where we have these company meetings, and the couch area is for presenters. I sit in the same spot in that couch every company meeting. And I know that this is a great methodology that I'm using, because now even the execs defer to me and say, hey, Maira, oh, that's your spot. And I'm thinking, this is it. So I say, take the head of the table, sit there consistently at every meeting, and they'll never ask you that question ever again.
Well, we have time for one more question. I see you with your hand raised. For all of the questions that didn't get to be asked, we'll have about an hour to network and mingle, so feel free to come up to any of our panelists and ask your questions.
Can you share any success stories as far as taking microaggressions and using them as an opportunity to educate and enlighten?
I have a really good one there, too. For a while, the CTO of the company just said that I was a pushover, which is not a great term to be known as. The minute I heard that he said this, and he said this to my manager, my manager made the unfortunate mistake of telling me this. And I looked at him and I said, I'm having a meeting with the CTO immediately. So I took that microaggression, I talked to the CTO, I said, by the way, I am not a pushover. And then I listed out all my experience. And in fact, I just told him, I grew up in East Oakland. There are no pushovers in East Oakland. I mean, that's the truth. And I saw him shrink the more I just said, don't ever tell anyone or tell me I'm a pushover. You have to confront these situations the minute they pop up. If you wait a day or two, a week later, whatever, it's not as effective. He never said I was pushover after that. He, said other things, but, and we consistently had these discussions where I had to correct him. But just take that and reflect it back on the person. Say, how would you feel if I told you you were a pushover? And, honestly, a lot of times people don't understand that they're engaging in this behavior. So it's your power to correct them. So that should be your superpower. Correct people when they're exhibiting microaggression towards you.
Yeah, I had an instance where in one of my previous companies where we were in a conversation and we were talking about promoting a talent, And one of my senior leaders actually said, "I don't know what's up with you Indian women." And I looked at her and I said, "Yeah, what's up with us?" And she didn't know how to react to that. She kept, and I just called it out because it was getting to a point, and it's more hurtful when women do it to women, right? And that is, I've always called these things out, sometimes in public, sometimes in private, because it might not be appropriate. But I have noticed that even if it's conscious bias, although people like to term it as unconscious, most of the times it's conscious, I've noticed. When you call it out, it takes them by surprise, and they correct themselves, and then they make it a point not to do it, at least in public, right? And then how you set that tone is also very important. For me, I learned it early on, as I mentioned, when I was 19 years old, all of 4 foot 11 inches, working with 40-year-old men, and I learned it early on. And for some time, I kept quiet about it and would not say anything about it. But then I realized that I could not sleep at night when I did that. And for me, my sleep is very, very important. So, so I decided to call it out.
Great. So as I mentioned, we have time for mingling and networking now for about an hour, but I'd love to give our panelists a round of applause.